I needed to make this video for Mikayla and my biological father, if he's still alive. This is probably one of the most earth-breaking information about your daughter and who wants to take control, and how the Ken Cooper and Sarah Cooper took control of your daughter. When I was 20 years old and I went to Sarah and Ken Cooper's house, this is more evidence of how Kenneth literally manipulated. He literally just held me in his cage, and it's very, very disgusting of this type of behavior that he did in order for them to go after Mikayla and control my biological father. Now, I don't know if my biological father's still alive or not, but you're going to want to know if somebody's attacking or trying to scoop up your daughter and then claiming they're the angels for your dead daughter and Mikayla. Sarah Cooper, when I was, it was like a year after my father died, or 6 months after my father, it was a month after, or a few weeks or a week after my father died. We went to Sarah and Ken, me, Jillian, and Frankie. I talked about Ken Cooper made Frankie cry, and he was putting me in submission, and Sarah Cooper was just, they were playing in teams. You know what Sarah Cooper did? She starts to manipulate. This is how intelligent this person starts to be. Very, very dark and evil. This is a very dark behavior. They're going to claim they're heroes. This is about, they're getting about what they want, and to do. They're doing this directly to my mother. This is what Sarah Cooper's doing directly to my mother. This is 21 years ago. All the royalties have already been laid out for them. It doesn't change anything. All the tragedy, they got my mother slapping around like a stupid bitch, like a fucking donkey. This is what that family did. This is what Sarah and Kenneth did directly, and Ken Cooper. I talked about this so many times. Sarah Cooper, I'm sitting at the table, and tells me, talks about a story, something about her being a kid. He goes, yeah, I remember living at the house with Dad. Remember, they're never a part of our lives when we're growing up. My mother doesn't like this lady. And she goes, yeah, my breast started to grow up, my breast started to come out, and she is literally trying to channel the spirit of my dead sister and Mikayla, that she's protecting Mikayla. This is how she does this, because Mikayla's real flat-chested, right? I don't know if she got breast implants before, but she doesn't have big breasts, and I guess, or she just doesn't bother her. Maybe she's an athlete, I don't know. But she says this because she knows, and she's literally using rehearsal words about Mikayla's life. And this is how she does this. So, as much as everything that is being thrown on me, I'm the enemy, I'm the one that's talking bad, I'm the one that's just messing up the old bitch ladies, what she did to my mother and all this. She's doing this directly to my mother and my biological father and Mikayla. This has nothing, because I don't. When I'm 20 years old, the month that my father died, for up until I was about 35 years, I'd say about 34 to 33 years old, I found out my biological father was not Raymond Palomo. And then it wasn't until like a year after, I think it was, that I thought, okay, my biological father was in the picture at some point. And I talked about, he visited my mother and what was going on, and it was the only boyfriend she ever had, or a genuine relationship that she's ever had with a real man. So I say this because Mikayla, this lady doesn't even know who the fuck you are, and is telling me how you don't understand how this person is engaging at me, is I want to control your life and you don't know any better, and I'm just going to do this and this. This person thinks that this is just nothing but a TV drama show for fame. This person hadn't had their life, and I don't know what Ken had her trained to do, kept her in his chicken hen, but this is what caused probably this type of behavior as well. And Kenneth knew about you the whole fucking time. Because the minute that my dad dies, why is Ken Cooper, let me tell you something. Before I sat down with Sarah Cooper in the kitchen table by myself, why Ken Cooper dragged Frankie outside after making him cry to smoke a cigar and tell him how he was a hero because he protected him from Miguel, and he was lying the whole time. And they both knew about it when I was 5 years old, didn't tell my mother and father, and now the president is making up for it. And the psychologists they're all lying. The gay community and transgenders are the one that's covering up for them. I was there, I saw it, they said it, it was nasty whenever my father committed suicide. I talked about this so many times. But my mother doesn't, I talked about my mother doesn't like Sarah, and I feel like I'm forgetting. They're shooting something in my brain right now, so I don't say anything. This is how they're doing this. This is exactly how they're doing this. They don't want me talking about this because they want to make sure their hero shows up over at the Congress. And I'm going to talk about that as well, Mikayla. That's also something very important, that I also got a threat that they're going to come after you at the governor's office. And what happens is Ken Cooper, I talked about, he starts to talk about, you said, yeah, she's real beautiful, yeah, and he starts to talk about like that's his daughter. Like he starts to talk about you, Mikayla, that he starts to talk about my dead sister, and when he talks about it, he's literally, it's like him throwing fucking trash on the fucking floor. Is the way that he expresses himself, the way that he talks about it, it's just like material. There's no empathy or compassion. It's just about what is his. And he talks about how Mikayla's real beautiful, and he sort of mouths off about my biological father because he got a beautiful white and blonde woman. And Ken Cooper didn't like him because he got the exchange for giving me up, so he got a white woman and then got Mikayla into this world. And then Ken Cooper was like, yeah, your daughter died, yeah, and yeah, he had another daughter, she was real beautiful, yeah, she's a real beautiful girl. So he was already talking about that was your angel. That as Ken Cooper is. He's the one that protected you and gave the orders to the police department and the law enforcement, along with Sarah Cooper. So I think it's important for me to talk about this because right after that is when I went right next door, and I went over to sat at the table and Sarah dragged me over there. You got to understand that Sarah Cooper and both of them were tactically working to separate me and Frankie, because after Ken Cooper had put Frankie in his place and let him lay down the law on him, then they went after me. But because they knew what Frankie being raped the whole entire time for so many years, that's what they did. So I think it's important for me to talk. I know somebody's calling me right now and they're harassing me because they know that I'm saying this, and I just felt them shoot my testicles about a few seconds ago to electrocute me. But I want to say this because to my biological father, she's taking ownership of your daughter, the one that's still alive, and she's doing it against me. She's doing it. You don't understand. As disgusting and as vile as they were in behavior and the words, this is like a chess match. They're literally figuring out what words. They're not there for any good reason at all. They're not there for any good reason. I got fooled really bad. You got to understand what they're doing is they're trying to direct it all at me as much as they can because they know my mother's as stupid as a fucking donkey, and it's their donkey that they're working with. And it worked. And it did. It did fucking work. Because you have to understand, you don't have to understand, but, all this is a loss. And whatever it is that they're doing right now, it's just because it's going to scold the police department. That's why. A child to get raped from 5 years old and experience 10 homosexual men, and that's a detective police officer, and Sarah Cooper is doing this. It's going to scold that entire family and the police department beyond words. How disgusting! He's a murderer. He killed a lot of fucking people in prison and threw them in there, and a child is being fucking raped, and he doesn't tell my mother and father. And I saw this motherfucker, and they're all lying. They're all working in teams. Kenneth, I didn't have any communication with Sarah Cooper, but maybe once or maybe once or twice after that visit. Kenneth, I had communication with, and he was coming to my apartment, and he was sending his reinforcements with David. I'm telling you, David and Kenneth were working in teams, and it was very suspicious in everything that was going on. You know, regardless of how much money and how much they want to do this for Michael Jackson, they're doing this for Michael Jackson, for the black community and the gays and transgenders, because they're doing this to me because I'm the one that met him, and it affected me and my family, and I was with my father, and then he said, oh yeah, it's my grandpa, yeah, it's my grandpa, oh yeah, it's Sarah. You got to understand what these people did. To my biological father, he's taking control of your daughter, and that's what he did. That's what she did. That's what Kenneth did. They want to direct it, and they have been directing it at me and their people, their team. It's not going to change. Their team is the one that did that to me. They're transgenders and gays in secret life that they live. That's why. Because they know that they're doing it to y'all, but they want to put the blame on me. Because they knew about the sexual rapes and didn't say anything. They knew about it the whole time, and they were trying to cover up their tracks because they don't want to be. They want to look like heroes. Now let me tell you something, Mikayla. When I was at the governor's office, and I met you, and I didn't know it was you. Right after you left, I showed up one last time, and it was another lady. And this lady, you know what she told me her name was? I go, hello, what's your name? And she had a piece of paper. Remember that piece of paper you gave me? And it said you had your email address, and you didn't have she said you didn't have a phone number or something like that, or I don't think they had a phone number. I think it was just an email to email you to set up an appointment for my freedom to speak to the governor. Well, Sarah Cooper, this lady says her name is Sarah, and she's trying to inherit the spirit of Sarah Cooper and fight for her team. And this is right after you left. And I go like, she has a piece of paper, and she looks at the screen, at the computer screen, as she's holding a piece of paper. He goes, oh, my name's Sarah. And she gives me a sort of direct, threatening look, like, I'm fucking in charge. I tell you what to do. And then she looks at the computer screen, and she's holding a piece of paper like the piece of paper that you gave me. And she says, and she looks at it, and she goes, and she's looking at the screen like, you're not in charge. I'm going to tell you what you're going to do, what's going to happen with your life, and what's going to happen. That's exactly what she did, and she expressed. I have no idea who Mikayla is, but I just know I can relate Sarah by her name, by Sarah, S-A-R-A. I think that's how they spell it, but I want to say this because my biological father would not be very happy to know that not only you're doing this to my mother, you're doing this to him and her and me. This is all out of selfish greeds. This is entirely to cover up the police department. The police department and detectives, of what they did to watch a child get raped is because they wanted to throw it on me. That's why they were giving me all these tickets. And I was young. That's why they were harassing me and threatening me in my job. 100%. Everything was about them. Everything in every job site. Still is to this right now. But the only difference is I was younger and I didn't know what was going on. They all platoon fighting for Kenneth at the radio station. Oh, he's on the radio station. Oh, that's our gay right there, our transgender gay faggot. That's all they were doing. I had no idea. Not only Kenneth is a fucking transgender, but I had no idea of anything about what's going on. So he's promoting this on the radio, like celebrity American flag president. Guess who? Everybody, go after the straight kid who's trying to ruin Sarah Cooper in the police department and their secret sex life. Frankie was being raped by 10 homosexual men, and that's the number one thing is what it's going to do the police department, and what's going to do that filthy pig and that filthy bitch to do something like that, because he did this to my mother. They're not going to stop. I'm telling you, to my biological father, be careful. She's in charge of you, and so is Kenneth, and at the radio station.